Inside the board meeting, the scene was even more chaotic. Protesters chanting and singing, locking arms so police could not carry them away.
Why were those folks fighting arrest at a school board meeting? Just ask billionaire barons Charles and David Koch. A new film by Robert Greenwald tells the story of how the brothers bankrolled a campaign to, get this folks, resegregate a southern school system. That's right, in America. In a moment, Robert Greenwald will join me, but first a little background on all of this. Wake County School District in North Carolina is one of the nation's largest, and it's one of the first school districts to implement an income-based integration system. No more than 40% of a school's students could be getting subsidized lunches. And as the Washington Post reported back in January, the policy was a success. Quote, some of its best, most diverse schools are in the poorest sections. And then along came the Koch-backed AstroTurf group, Americans for Prosperity. The group got involved in the local school board elections, funding and organizing candidates who wanted to end the district's busing policy. The Koch-supported candidates ran in support of what they called neighborhood schools and against what they called forced busing, coded language that was also used in the segregated South.
The school board crossed the line with forced busing.
Forced busing is absolutely a code word. It's a term busing used in the South by George Wallace. Neighborhood schools means we have our own schools and the blacks have theirs.
So we heard loud and clear across this county, people wanted to go to a neighborhood schools model.
We should have our right to choose our own neighborhood schools.
In one election, they now have the majority needed to change the way students are assigned to school.
A big shakeup on the Wake County School Board could now impact tens of thousands of local families.
And just like that, the district began to phase out one of the nation's best efforts at school integration. Is this America in 2011? You bet it is, folks. It's happening. Joining me now is the documentary filmmaker Robert Greenwald. His latest film is about Wake County elections called Koch Brothers Exposed. Why do the Koch brothers want to end public education? Mr. Greenwald, good to have you with us. Why do they want to end public education? I mean, is this the tip of the iceberg?
Yes, it is the tip of the iceberg, Ed, and these are men who've given over almost $20 million to think tanks that work to create an ideological framework about why public education is a failure. And as we know, they believe, as libertarians, as right-wingers, they believe in the destruction of virtually anything and everything that our government can provide. And it's a sad day when we see them using their money, intervening in a local election, and honestly doing whatever they can that's destroying the fabric of democracy by trying to buy their ideas.
And if local school board elections are going to be bought by people like the Koch brothers, what does that leave us with?
Well, it leaves us with a democracy for sale, and that's what they believe in, and that's what their ideology is. And where they're clever at is they buy the politicians, they pay for judges, they buy grassroots activists, and they try to make sure that the laws are changed so that their money can then not be tracked. So it's this whole web, if you will, supported, as we know, by a right-wing echo chamber. And they're not the only ones, but this is what happens when you have money let loose, when you have gross inequities in the way our society works, and when you have capitalism without any restraints whatsoever. They're the poster children for this kind of behavior.
And, of course, they're all about local control. They're all about infiltrating the local politicians and privatizing. That's really where they want to go. Reduce the obligation of the taxpayers and privatize absolutely everything you can get your hands on. And, of course, who will get the education? The wealthy. And the economically challenged in this country will be left behind, and we'll have a pool of cheap labor, which is exactly what they want. Mr. Greenwald, we'll have you back talking more about this because I think this is a big story. Thanks for doing